the first one. Now we're on our right slide. So welcome, everybody. Thank you. Awesome to see all of the people in the room. It is a day number 3 or day number 4, depending on if you were in the workshops. Great to see this many people in the room, even regardless of the awesome party yesterday. My name is Vesa Juvonen. I'm a principal product manager in the Microsoft 365 platform areas. I've been working in Microsoft now for 16 years. And in this keynote, we wanted to actually talk about the different configuration options, development options, extensibility options, which we have in the Microsoft 365. So really kind of going through the no-code, low-code, pro-code, extensibility options, and explaining what you can be doing within the Microsoft 365. Because again, it's not just about what the products provide, and whenever there's a business requirements, what you cannot meet, you can actually modify things. You can configure things, you can enhance things, and there's a big vibrant partner ecosystem which provides awesome solutions as well. Now, I will be joined by 4 different community members, MVPs. Let me think quickly. I think more of them are MVPs, not Microsoft employees. And they will be doing the live demos, and we'll have a chat on the different perspectives of those demos as well. Now, before we actually get started in there, as said already by Paolo and as said by Jeff as well, we have a vibrant community. And I guess Jeff promised me to do something on this keynote, which is now terrifying me actually. But we really wanted to recap the fact that we build our products for you. So you are the most important people for Microsoft. It's not about Microsoft telling you what you should be doing. We want to provide the best possible products and capabilities and services for you. That's why you are the people and who we want to thank today. So thanks everybody one more time for being here. And now I'm a bit terrified if my niece will take care of this, but it's okay. Cheers! Cheers. Didn't break anything, so that's good. Anyway, let's actually get started on the discussion of today. So first of all, we wanted to kind of recap what Jeff told already on Tuesday. The Microsoft 365 is growing tremendously. We get more people using all of the different services. There's more than 270 million monthly active users in Microsoft Teams. There's actually quite a lot of people using SharePoint, but we measure the SharePoint success nowadays more on the storage and the data, what is being stored. 150 petabytes of new content added on a SharePoint in a monthly basis. You can only imagine how much content there is worldwide within a SharePoint Online. It's just a mind-boggling number. I still don't understand what is a petabyte versus gigabyte or a megabyte, but it's a lot. It's a lot. Now, as part of this momentum, we basically have multiple different services in Microsoft 365. We only show a few of them actually available within this kind of a classic chart, what Jeff showed in Tuesday as well. And all of these applications can be modified, configured, extended by the developers, or all the users, or the low-code builders and makers who are modifying the behavior. And of course, all of the behind of these applications, we have our cloud artificial intelligence and the synapses and the connections, which is the Microsoft Graph, which provides the power within our Microsoft Cloud. Now, to be able to actually understand a bit what's possible within those applications without writing any actual code, let me invite here the awesome Emily Mancini, and we'll have a look on how the Viva and SharePoint can be customized. Emily, please come here. Excellent.
We can begin creating an incredible user experience in Microsoft Teams with just a few configuration steps. At Kintoso Electronics, you can see we're a Teams-first organization, and I'm already part of many. I can check the activity to make sure I am up to date on important conversations. I also use Tasks by Planner every single day to make sure I'm following up on my action items. At Kintoso Electronics, we have just started to get ready to launch the new Viva Home. So here you can see I can connect to Viva Home right within Microsoft Teams without leaving. At the top of the screen, we can see all of the different Viva modules that have been launched in the organization. I can learn new skills through Viva Learning. I can get feedback on my well-being and productivity through Viva Insights. I can make sure I'm hitting my goals and delivering on OKRs and Viva Goals. and then I can connect with different people across the organization in Viva Engage. Continuing down Viva Home, you can see I can complete actionable items in the dashboard. I have navigation across all of the different SharePoint sites that we've launched in our organization. And I also have a feed in the right showcasing any important and upcoming news. Now, as we're getting ready to launch this Viva Home in our organization, we have a couple more steps that we want to complete before we're ready to give it to the organization. So I'm going to navigate over here to Tasks by Planner and see what my team is asking me to complete. I can see one of the first items that we want to add to our Viva Connections dashboard is a link to the help desk to provide a frictionless opportunity to my colleagues to report issues when they're working within Microsoft Teams throughout their day. Navigating back to Viva Connections, you can see here, I can—
Viva Connection.
Viva Home. You can see here, I can edit the dashboard. In the top right, I can add out-of-the-box cards, and there's a couple of different styles. We're going to start with the web link. As I click Edit, I can choose my different card size. I can add in a link, add a title to provide context, and a description so that people understand what they can do with this item. I can provide imagery using any of the stock images or org assets. And I can even audience target to make sure the right people are seeing the right content in the right context. Another additional card that I can add that is out of the box is our assigned tasks. As you saw, I navigated in the left rail to go by tasks by planner and to do. I can shorten the steps for my colleagues and just add assigned tasks right here in this dashboard so they don't have to go to additional applications.
Now, Emily, one thing what I do quite often in the community calls is what? Anybody in the audience? Remember the Zoom. Can we do one more Zoom? There we go. It's just easier to follow up on what's happening. Did we do too much? A bit back. If you've ever been in a community calls, I'm always interrupting the presenters and saying, excuse me, can we do a bit more Zooming? So, all good. Thank you, Emily.
Absolutely. So here you can see with just a few configuration steps, I created a central place for my employees to come for information all across the organization. And I don't need to have any SharePoint site building skills or experience to launch this quickly. Now, a couple of months have passed, and my organization is seeing a lot of value in Viva Home. And we've decided that we want to make a more customized experience through a SharePoint communication site and bring that into our Viva Home experience. Up in the top right, you can see how I have easy connection to go over to my SharePoint home site. And we're going to navigate in and make a couple of edits to the SharePoint home site to also bring in all the goodness that we just saw from Viva Connections as well. As you can see on my homepage, so far we're really focused on news and events. So I want to create a more personalized experience of those updates. I'm going to add a vertical section to add in all of the different web parts that we have through Viva Connections. So we're going to start with adding in that feed we saw on the right side of our screen. And I'm also going to go in and add in our dashboard so I can have all of those actionable items appear here. One of the joys of a demo is going a little quickly, and I see our new cards are not here necessarily just yet, but when we go to the See All view, here they are. And we can see in the assigned tasks, I still have a couple more items to do. Let's go take a peek and see what else I can complete today.
Oh, not in the Teams.
Yep. Let's go this way.
Yes.
We can navigate back from our SharePoint home site, back to Viva Home, and access our assigned tasks here. We are working in a new environment, so you can see they're not updating just yet, but in the future, I'll be able to just interact with that card to get that information. Now, in addition to those out-of-the-box cards, we can also create some customized adaptive cards. So let's go over to the Patterns and Practices sample gallery and pick out one to add to our environment. Here on the homepage of GitHub, I can navigate into samples, and I want to bring in a simple list so that I can provide an easy entry for my colleagues to provide praise to each other, since we're doing so much hard work at Contoso Electronics, and we want to make sure that we are recognizing each other and those efforts that we're making. Let's go back into our Viva Connections dashboard, and let's go add in the card designer. Now here on the card designer, you can see we have a couple of different styles. We're going to switch to a large card once again. We're going to add in a title, an icon that aligns with our context so we can provide that strong imagery. We want to give praise to our colleagues. Oops. Still mastering typing and talking at the same time.
It is surprisingly hard, actually.
And then here we need to switch this to show the quick view. I'm going to remove the buttons. There we go, you can see it on the right side. And then I'm going to paste in the JSON and hit republish. Now here you can see I can interact with that card and it brings up information for me to act on so I can focus on celebrating anniversaries and different achievers across our organization. Now these updates are manual. If you want to have dynamic data within one of these cards, we're going to cover that a little bit later with our pro code section from Derek Cash-Peterson as we talk about SPFX.
Can we go back on the Viva Home? Just to call out, the Viva Home is rolling out gradually, end of the year, early next year. So you will be actually seeing the Viva Home coming up to your tenants as well. And that's really, really cool new feature. Thank you, Emily. Let me, just in case, close the Teams here. So that's not going to jump in. Do not send me any messages. Mark, don't do that. Now, I was referring to Mark Cashman because he's the funny guy always in Microsoft. Now, as part of writing and creating then extensibility or making those cards dynamic, we need to write a bit code. And there are multiple ways of writing that code. And as we're writing extensibility and actually starting doing low code or pro code, we call that as a collaborative apps in the Microsoft 365. And collaborative apps are really empowering the new ways of working. So really connecting the people, the business processes, the data and insights in the flow of the work. So making sure that the application is actually surfaced in those applications and services that the people are using on the day-to-day basis. So as you work in the teams, as you're working in the Microsoft 365 applications, we can surface extensibility and automation and data and insights for people to take advantage, rather than moving to another application or going cross to applications and again, moving away from the flow of the work. And that's really the key objective of the collaborative apps, making sure that you are being much more productive and in the flow of the work. So surfacing again, application inside of your work. Now, we do have a really great platform to do that within a Microsoft 365. So we have the identity, we have the data and insights, the compliance, security, all taken care of. So rather than starting from scratch and building that insights of authentication, logging, authorization, you can take advantage of all of the greatness what Microsoft is providing. And as a developer or extensibility builder or a maker, you'll just build on top of that goodness, which is taken care of by Microsoft. So we have the identity, security, and compliance by default. We have the data and insights available for you to take advantage using the Microsoft Graph, Dataverse, and Azure data. We have the developer tools and APIs to connect into. If you are a low-code developer, you still probably need to connect to a data level or APIs to surface the data out from there. And then we have the user experience, which is about exposing, again, the application in the flow of the work and making things happen. Behind the scenes, one of the key components is, of course, the Microsoft Graph. We talked about this one already. And we are evolving the Microsoft Graph all on the weekly basis. Right now, the latest announcement 2 weeks ago was that the SharePoint Pages API is going to be in the Microsoft Graph by end of this year in beta stage, which is really, really cool add-on to be available there as well. The Graph is really the connectivity between the user, the data, and apps and devices, and it saves, again, money and resources from everybody. Now, to be able to actually understand what we can build with Microsoft Graph and the collaborative apps, let's have a look on this from a low-code perspective. Let me invite the awesome Louisa Fries to do a demo on that one.
Good morning. So if you're a little bit like me, you work a lot in teams, right? And I always wonder, what is the next that I need to do? So what does my agenda look like? What are the tasks that I need to complete in different apps? What are the files that are trending around me or that I used the most? So to be able to bring all of this together, I would love to show you a little app that I built recently. If we find the right tab.
It's in one of the tabs. There's quite a few demos prepared there.
A lot of them. Yeah. Okay, so let's first start in Teams. So as you see, I am in Teams and I have a personal app already pinned to the bar, and we call it the Productivity Hub. And it brings together my meetings, so I can clearly see what's up next for me. I can even join those meetings right here from this experience. I can start a chat with people who attend the same meeting as I do. So I customized this using Graph API to just send a little chat message like, hey, we gotta talk, and you know what's going on then, of course. Next thing is my tasks from To-Do, from Planner. I can even open them, I can engage with those tasks, I can reassign them right here, straight from this experience, and of course I can say, hey, I completed that task already. Worst thing is the To-Do ping is unfortunately missing here. We're working on that one. It's the most fun thing to do. We have a section for my files, so recent files, even trending files. I get a little preview image here, but if I really want to dive into that, I can clearly open that from this experience as well and have an iframe PCF so that I can engage with the content straight where I'm working in. And maybe you noticed it does not really look like a Power App, does it?
Nope.
Well, no offense, of course, but of course there is some magic behind the scenes happening here. So if we want to look at it like that, we need to take care to adopt that look and feel of Microsoft Teams. So we have those nice box shadows here with inline CSS. And of course, we have this grid view so that everything is in place.
And of course, the data is coming from where?
Yeah, of course, the data.
Data is coming from Microsoft Graph.
Yeah,
yes.
Data is coming from Microsoft Graph API. And if you are not aware of that, in Power Apps, we can't just call an API, not even the Graph API directly. We need to wrap that API into a custom connector, which I did. So showing you the custom connector at make.powerapps.com, we have this beautiful next finish experience so that you can create your own connector, define your own actions so that you can enable even more makers to take advantage of Graph API or even any other API and bringing data right where they are working at, which of course makes sure that they stay in the flow of their own work and make sure that they do not need to context switch if not needed.
Also, I have to say on the connectors, the cool thing about the connectors is that they are not application specific. So you're basically exposing endpoints and APIs to be used in Power Platform, which can be then used by multiple applications in Power Automate, in Power Apps.
This is very true. So the beautiful thing about a connector and even a custom connector is I can create that custom connector, I can expose that connector in an environment, and then I can reuse that same connector in different Power Apps, in different Power Automate flows, and even in Azure Logic apps. So that is really a beautiful thing because it makes sure that we create things once and we will not over-create things over and over and over again. Single source of truth.
Yeah. Now, how did you build the UX? Can we go on the Power App side and
of course,
quick look on that?
Of course. So we are right here now in the Power App Studio.
I guess we need to zoom a bit.
Yeah. I just wanted to say, of course, I will zoom in a little bit. You know,
it's my age. I can't help it. So.
Yeah. I'm totally blaming you for that. And as you can see, so we have this canvas here. And lots of containers. Why would I need to have containers? Because this app is, of course, a fully responsive app, which means that if you want to open that on your phone, it will look good as well. Again, and Vesa doesn't need his glasses anymore, and even he can see that, which, of course, is a good thing. And if we're going to play this app here, quickly showing you this. So it will automatically readjust, and if I make it just like really, really thin, we will have this container adjusting the width of the screen here automatically for us. So what we're doing, I knew this. So what we're doing here is a bunch of containers who contain these different workloads, like the container for my to-dos, and of course I have an image, I have a label for is this completed or is it not, I have the label for my tasks, and so on, so that I will always have this consistent look and feel of how a Teams app shall look like. Because I feel like if we provide users in Teams with an experience that does not look like Teams, they feel alienated and they feel something is off. And that is even a security feature, because we teach users to not click buttons that feel wrong. And when we at the same time provide them with a user experience that feels wrong as well, that is contradictory, so we should not be doing this at all. Quickly going into how we create these galleries here. So whenever we want to repeat something in Power Apps, it's a very, very good idea to create a gallery. Inside of that gallery, of course, I have several containers then again. Let me quickly open this. Here we go. So we're now here in the files action, and we have the label for the body, the subtitle, and of course an image, and that is the profile picture of that person who owns that file, and of course leveraging Graph API to get that profile picture of that person who edited the file last or who owns that file, so that we see at a glance what is happening here around myself. Because, of course, teamwork is very important, and Teams is enabling lots of users all over the world to collaborate more efficiently. But sometimes we're just like really lost. What is happening around me? What do I need to do next? So it is a very good idea to have some kind of productivity hub, some kind of me experiences, so that users are not wondering anymore, what do I need to do next? Then combining, of course, experiences from different applications, like I have my tasks in To-Do, I have more tasks in Planner, I do not want to context switch all the time, and maybe these are not related to a specific team, so that I can bring all these experiences into one view is really crucial to enable more users to leverage this modern workplace experience.
Now, Luisa, can we go to that one more time on the Teams UX?
Of course.
And again, just recapping what Luisa was saying there, this is a great example of a collaborative apps where it's actually surfacing information from multiple different data sources inside of Microsoft 365 to provide additional value. So to-do tasks and tasks from the to-do and planner, the documents are coming from the feed of using the Microsoft Graph, and then we have the meetings coming from Exchange behind the scenes or from mail.
Of course.
So it's a really nice combination of the building additional value by combining those data sources. And we're going to use this example with a later demo today as well. But let's move forward on the slides. Thank you, Luisa.
Pleasure.
Good. Related on all of these capabilities and options, I said when we started the keynote, we want to go through different options, different capabilities, different platforms, what we have available in Microsoft 365. One of the key investment area where we've been investing as a Microsoft is also the Viva, Microsoft Viva, which is the employee experience platform. And here, actually, one of the key points to notice that it is a platform. We do provide you a lot of native out-of-the-box capabilities as part of the Microsoft Viva modules, but it is a platform. And platform means that you can modify that, you can extend that, you can change the behavior, you can configure that based on your needs as well. Now, the Microsoft Viva will have more and more modules available, and we already announced a few additional modules, and we keep on evolving that platform. We're also looking into having a more consistent API layer, more consistent UX layer across the Microsoft Viva platform for developers and also for makers. Now, the Microsoft Viva is really focused on the employee experiences. So it is connected to the employee business systems, line of business data, the HR systems, and then surfacing that data inside of Microsoft Teams. So you could actually think about Microsoft Viva or Microsoft Viva module as a collaborative app, just provided by Microsoft. So it's kind of a building on that same mental mindset of using Microsoft Graph APIs and surfacing the information directly in Microsoft Teams and in the flow of the work. Now, to be able to understand what we can do within the Microsoft Viva and a bit more in a more extended way, so actually writing some additional level of code, let me invite here Derek Cash-Peterson from Synpraxis Consulting to show you how we can extend the services and capabilities, in this case, in Viva Home.
Thanks, Vesa. All right, let's see.
I'm just washing our shoes, that we have a bit of a difference here. So anyway, classic song, I know.
All right. So today I'm going to talk about, adaptive card extensions. And adaptive card extensions are our extension point into the Viva Connections tool. It lets us use the adaptive card framework for our layouts to provide a cross-browser, cross-device experience and mobile-first approach. It also lets us leverage SPFX for the back end to link into dynamic data. So what Emily showed you earlier was based on configuration, and you can manually edit that. But if you need to connect to SharePoint data, if you need to connect to line of business data, or integrate with some other system, you can do that leveraging SPFX. So here's our dashboard. I'm going to add 2 cards that I've created previously. And they're based around a help desk scenario. So we have 2 cards here. The first is to allow end users to create a new help desk ticket. And the second is a list for technicians to see the different issues that they have assigned to them. So this particular one has a little bit of configuration. We're going to allow an API key from Big Maps.
This is always good to stream live on the internet, so passwords and keys and all of that stuff. So
where did my dashboard go? All right. And so we're going to add the Big Maps API key. And we're going to add them to both because they both use the same functionality. And I'll show you how I use that later.
Of course, in a real world, this would be a one-time configuration by the person who's designing the end-user experience. So end users are not expected to configure these kind of things.
Right. And you can see the cards, you can move them up and down on the dashboard. I'm going to move these 2 to the top. And as Emily showed earlier, you can also audience target all of these so that the technician card can only show up for folks in a technician group, and while the create a new card can show up for everybody. So I'm going to publish my dashboard. And now we can come in and we can create a new help desk ticket. Now, this is showing adaptive card extensions and sort of a whole bunch of different functionality. I'm going to talk specifically about 2 newer features that we've just added. One is geolocation. The other is the ability to select media from and upload it into the card. So the first, I'm going to choose an incident report. This is going to be really high because my computer is broken. And I'm going to click the next button. Now you can see all of the different components are matching the theme of our SharePoint site. So as the visual design of your site changes over time, the cards will update accordingly. So now you can see we've got an incident number, we've got it, who was it raised by, the date it was opened, reiterating some of the information you've already put in, but we've got 2 additional pieces here. The first is the ability to add your location. So I'm going to click Add Location. And this is going to look and see where you currently are. And I'm going to share that location. This is where the Big Maps API comes in because it is going in the background and getting the name of the street that I'm in rather than just the latitude and longitude. And now I'm going to add an image to the card. So I can click Add Image, I can look for that image, and then I can add it right here. Cross our fingers. Maybe not. Let's try it again.
Let's be patient.
I am not a patient man, Vesa. All right, well, we're going to roll with it, and we're going to click the Submit button. And now, what that's doing in the back end, it's using a service layer to go in and write data directly to a SharePoint list. Now, I'm using a SharePoint list. Most organizations wouldn't use a SharePoint list for incident tracking for IT. But any system with an API, ServiceNow, Jira, GitHub, you could just leverage that data layer to push that data into your system of record. Now, going back to the dashboard, I want to show you real quick the card for the technicians. And I'm going to do that in the mobile experience.
And this is one thing what I wanted to kind of reinforce. Quite often we show the demos using the cards within a browser, but that's not actually primary objective of the Viva connection and those cards. The primary objective is those people who are not sitting in the front of their desktop on 24/7. It's the people, the frontline workers who only have a mobile phone potentially within their usage. So having that native personalized mobile application accessing your business data directly within their hands is super crucial. And in this case, we are basically demonstrating that in the sense of technical support.
Absolutely. And so here you can see, as that frontline worker, I have 3 current tasks pending. I can click on that card, and in the card, I can see I've got 3 tasks associated with me. I can see who raised the issue. I can see this one is overdue. I can click into it. I can get more detail on that item here. Now, because the user, when they entered the ticket, they put in their location, I can actually click here and say, oh, I'm going to get my directions. And I can link directly to Maps, the map app on the phone, and I can do Bella Sky, or Bella Center, yep. And this particular one is at the Microsoft building here in Denmark. And I can get directions directly to the location where I can do that. Also, on the card, I have the ability to upload an image. So, again, once I fixed it, I can put that up there. I can add the image, a picture of the fixed issue, and then I can simply close the ticket. Okay, so this is sort of an example of some of the things that you can do with adaptive card extensions. I'm going to take a very quick peek at the code, and as I said before, we are leveraging the adaptive card framework for the UI, and we're using SPFX for the back end. So we have 2 new actions that we've added into the framework to allow us to do the geolocation and the media. The first one is our get location, vivaaction.getLocation. We put that in our template, and that's what allows the button that says choose your location on the map, and then we'll prompt the user to enter that information. We also have the select media, which is down here somewhere. Thank you. We've got the select media action. The select media action obviously allows the button that pushes up the media picker. There are a bunch of parameters that you can add on that action where you can allow multiple items here, the type of image, the type of media, you can restrict it to PNGs, you can restrict it to PDFs, and there's a whole list of items that you can configure with this particular thing. Now, in your SPFX code, you need to handle that action yourself. And we do that through the onAction method. And we check the type of the action. We have one method called onAction that every submit handles. We come through, and here you can see we're checking for our get action, and then we're getting the latitude and longitude that come out of the action. We're then calling a function in our data layer that, in our service layer, that actually takes that latitude and longitude and converts it into a street address. The images are a little bit more complicated in that you have to sort of parse out all the bytes into a byte array. So we're doing a lot of that work. We're looping through that imagery, and then we're adding the image to the SharePoint list along with all the other data. And then we have a service layer that does all of the saving and whatnot into the SharePoint list. And with that...
Now, just a good recap on things. So Emily showed a static set of cards, and there's basically images and all of that. But if we want those cards to be dynamic, so data which is shown in the cards is coming from an API or LOB system or HR system, that's where you need to have the code layer. And code layer for these cards is SharePoint Framework, SPFX. And in here, we are basically then seeing one of the implementation styles for providing that nice mobile experience for the frontline workers. Key point also notice is that there's a lot of cards available by our partner ecosystem. So it's not like every single customer needs to write code, not at all. Our partner ecosystem is already providing hundreds and hundreds of different scenarios and cards which are available from the store or from the outside of the store by a one-to-one partner connections.
Yep. And speaking of the store, Vesa, that adaptive card that you just saw for the help desk, along with 12 others, are available for free to show as an art of the possible through an app that was created and is in the Microsoft Store right now. It's called the Adaptive Card Extension Gallery. You can get it directly from the store. If you want to see how we built this, how the templates were created, what does the service layer look like, you can also download it from the SPFX reference scenario GitHub repo. So you can see all of those different cards, all 14 of them are located here, and you can check the source code as well.
Cool. Thank you, Derek, on this one.
All right, Vesa, thank you.
Cheers. Excellent. So now we've gone through no code, low code, a bit code. No, that's not an official term. Don't quote me on that. But now let's talk a bit about that pro code scenarios or pro development scenarios and what we are investing in there. And of course, SharePoint Framework, it is a pro developer scenario. It is actually writing code. Adaptive cards is kind of a semi-code. Is that a right term? I don't know. Don't quote me on that one either. Now, as we build on starting doing pro development stories, we have a separate or additional set of capabilities within our usage. So as we start building scenarios for Microsoft 365, we are looking into now extending on top of the Microsoft Teams app scenarios, so Microsoft Teams app model. Already today, you can have Microsoft Teams tabs and Microsoft Teams apps built for the tabs and messaging extensions and bots and meeting extensions and so on. So there's a lot of different scenarios. Earlier this year, we already announced that you can actually extend these Microsoft Teams apps to Outlook and Office.com. Technically, Office.com is nowadays named as Microsoft 365 app. You've probably seen that renaming message if you've ever been in the Office.com. But the idea here is that rather than having multiple ways of doing extensibility in Microsoft Teams or in Outlook or in Microsoft 365 app, I'm trying to learn the new name, or in SharePoint, we would have a one unified way of building experiences, one unified app model across the Microsoft 365. And we are gradually heading to this direction. So already today, you can actually have your Microsoft Teams apps visible and exposed in Outlook and in Office. And we're going to see some of that within the last demo today. Now, as we start building these things, we also might take advantage of SharePoint Framework, which is insanely successful within the last few years. So not to confuse anybody, SharePoint Framework is not going to go away. It is a framework which you can use to build Microsoft Teams applications as well. So we introduced SharePoint Framework back in 2016, and it focused on SharePoint. Then we've been extending that to be also available nowadays in Microsoft Viva and Microsoft Viva Connection. There's a Microsoft Teams extensibility options, and the latest add-on is to actually support SharePoint Framework also in Microsoft 365 app and in Outlook. Now, we are looking into potentially renaming the SharePoint Framework. That discussion with marketing is still ongoing. But it is actually an extensibility model which you can use to build for all of those different applications. The same piece of code actually works within a SharePoint, in Microsoft Teams, in Outlook, or in Microsoft 365, which is really, really cool. And it actually has that automatic code hosting, and it's hosted inside of your tenant. So that's one of the key benefits of SharePoint Framework, where you do not need to allow external code to connect to your tenant. The code is actually running within your tenant. It changes the dynamics and security and policy considerations completely. And a lot of customers are super happy about that mental mindset. But again, if you are an IIS developer, sorry, SaaS developer, you probably actually want to build these models in a bit different way. But we actually provide these solutions and tooling for both of these options. So regardless of are you going to use SharePoint Framework, or if you are a SaaS provider or an ISV with an existing web application, we provide you tooling. So we do have a Microsoft Teams toolkit available within the Visual Studio and Visual Studio Code to make it super easy to build those Microsoft Teams applications, which extends to Microsoft 365. You can also take advantage of SharePoint Framework. Kind of a complex thing, you can actually use SharePoint Framework even in Microsoft Teams toolkit. So there's multiple options for you to take advantage, which you can evaluate. And we as a community, we also want to make sure that you can easily get started on building these things. We have a lot of samples available already from our centralized Microsoft 365 sample repository at AKMS M365/samples. It's really the easiest way to get started and understand what is the art of possible to scan hundreds and hundreds of samples which our community or Microsoft has provided for you to take advantage. We're going to touch that a bit later today as well. Now, to be able to understand the different scenarios and what does it actually mean if I take advantage of SharePoint Framework or if I implement my stuff using the ISV way, so as in hosting in Azure or AWS, let me invite Laura Kokarinen from Finland to actually do a live demos on these topics.
Hello, everyone. So, if you're a professional developer like myself, you probably feel super comfortable writing code. And you probably don't feel as comfortable creating Power Apps. Am I right? Anyway, based on my personal experience, whenever I've done that, I felt like my hands are tied. I can't get things to look or work exactly the way that I would like them to. And I know that if I was to stay within Visual Studio, in my element, doing what I do best, which is coding, I would get things done just so much quicker. So luckily, we devs can still absolutely do that and achieve the same kind of productivity up that Luis showed us earlier by either creating a SharePoint Framework web part or a standalone web application. And next, I'm going to show you what the SharePoint Framework web part looks like in practice, and then how little code we actually need to make that happen, thanks to the Microsoft Craft Toolkit.
Thank you, Laura. And again, that's a really good example of providing different set of services and options to build those collaborative apps. We have the Power Platform and we have the Pro Code options available.
So here we are on a SharePoint site, and here we have a SharePoint Framework web part that looks exactly like the Power App that you saw earlier. And we have the agenda on the left, tasks in the middle, and files on the right. These are the Microsoft Craft Toolkit components that are readily available for you to use. And we can surface this exact same web part also on Teams. So here we go to Teams, and on the left-hand side navigation, we have an icon for the Productivity Hub. And the exact same web part also works on Teams. And then there's a new feature that's currently in preview that allows us to also show that web part on Outlook. So here, behind apps, we have the productivity dashboard. And because
patience.
Yeah, and because it's still in preview, it doesn't work. We have to refresh the page, and now it does. So it will be. Oh, sorry, Vesa. It will be GA before next summer. Okay, it doesn't. Hold on, I'll do it one more time.
Patience.
Oh,
there we go.
Yeah. And we can also surface that on office.com. Wow.
Yes. Where is it there?
Yeah. Oh yeah, where is it? Here it is. So behind apps, productivity dashboard.
Excellent.
And that loads, it loads immediately, unlike the output.
That was fast,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, the Finns.
Yes. Can you see the contrast between us?
This is 16 years in Microsoft, so, you know.
Hold on, this doesn't look like the application I was supposed to show you. This one does. Okay, so here we have the HTML code that is required for making that happen, like just this. And that's all thanks to the Microsoft Craft Toolkit components that we have referenced here. I mean, you just need to slap this bit of HTML into your SharePoint Framework application, and you get that what I just showed you. Incredible, right? And yeah, exactly that. And seriously, we don't have a lot of other files here. We just have this one file, and then we have some CSS styles and a configuration file and localization strings, and that's it. And yeah, that's all thanks.
Before you go there, I just got to call out.
Okay.
And the cool thing here is that this exactly the same piece code works across all of those things. So you don't have to do any changes to make the same component to actually work in SharePoint, in Teams, in Outlook, and in Microsoft 365 app.
Exactly. And if you want to use these components, you can just go to your search engine of preference, type in Microsoft Craft Toolkit, and you get directed to the Microsoft documentation. And there you have this table of all the components. And here we can have the agenda and the to-do and the file list that you saw earlier. And when you click any of these, you get like complete documentation on what the component looks like in practice, the HTML snippet that you need to slap into your source code, the properties that you can configure for that, so you can adjust the look and the functionality of that component, and anything you might possibly need. And of course, if you can't find the kind of component that you want to have in here, you can code one yourself, or then there are other open source projects like the PNP React controls that allow you to really quickly build very nice looking user interfaces that have the same look and feel as these Microsoft products. So it looks like it's like a built-in view. And then we can also use those exact same Microsoft Craft Toolkit components on a standalone web application. So here I have a .NET Blazor application, and it's exactly the same HTML code in a Razor file. Of course, in a Blazor application, there's quite a lot more files than in the SPFX project, because it needs more supportive code, because SPFX just does so much for you. And this is one of the reasons why I recommend you to primarily build SPFX web parts, because SharePoint Framework just does so much for you. You don't have to write like this much code. And then another thing is about costs. When you build a standalone web application like this, you of course need to host it somewhere like Azure. When you build a SharePoint Framework web part, you host it on SharePoint. It doesn't cost you anything. And there's also no licensing costs involved. So the only investment that your company or your customer needs to make is the money that goes into the development, and possibly after going live, if you need to do any fixes or something like that, related to maintenance. And then there's the security and compliance perspective as well. Do you want to?
Yeah, so we talked about that one on the intro as well. So basically, there's these two different options, just to recap. So SharePoint Framework is great because it's running inside of the tenant. And from a security and compliance perspective, the information never leaves the tenant if the code is running inside. Now, if you're a SaaS provider, if you're an ISV, if you have an existing website, you can absolutely super easily expose that in Microsoft Teams as well. And then you are building the baseline, the structure, and authentication, the single sign-on is not automatic. It's super easy to do, but there's additional things to consider. You're not just overlaying your application, you actually implement the application a bit differently in place. Both options fully supported, and we from Microsoft obviously encourage both of those options because, again, as a developer or as a customer, you are the one who can decide what is the best option for you. Multiple considerations for sure. Cool. Thank you, Laura.
Cheers.
I should actually go back and see some recordings, me presenting 15 years ago, so that would be cool to see. Now, as in, working in Microsoft does change you a bit to be a bit social. Thank you, Paolo, for calling that out as well, as a exceptional Finn or whatever it was on the intro. We Finns are silent. We never show any emotions. Now, let's actually do some quick summaries on things. And before I close up, we wanted to actually announce a super cool new feature. This is a real announcement. It's going to be available today, which is called Microsoft Craft Developer Proxy. Never heard before. We're rolling out blog post this afternoon, and we're going to announce that in official channels. Let me explain what this is all about. So, as you're building applications towards the Microsoft Craft, one of the considerations which we have is that you might actually get throttled. There might be exceptions. There might be network disconnects. how would you actually do testing and validation? How do you implement your code in a way that, well, you get prepared on an exception? You get prepared for disconnecting the network. With Microsoft Graph Developer Proxy, you can easily mimic and simulate that situation within your developer box. What it actually does is that it adjusts itself to the network traffic, and then it starts simulating, for example, throttling and other network issues. So you as a developer, you can basically focus on taking those exceptions into account within your code. So you are able to tackle that delay or handle that throttling message or whatever exception might actually come. The proxy has additional settings and options. You can explicitly say that let's focus on throttling, let's focus on network exceptions, let's be super, let's say, fragile. So you'll get a lot of exceptions as you're developing and you're able to understand, okay, now I know how to handle this exception. So super cool tool for pro developers to be able to do these things. And this works in your own computer. It adjusts itself to the network traffic. So you get any development, any tool, any application which is using Microsoft Graph, you can basically do the testing of handling those exceptions within your code. How cool is that? And as said, this is announced today. We do have some docs already available at AKMS/graph/proxy. We'll have blog post announcements coming up later this afternoon. I'm not quite sure how it went with the marketing on the timings, but you'll see more announcements coming up on this. Super tool for pro developers. Now, as we are closing up and doing a bit summaries, by the way, whenever I say thank you and all, Kevin will come back to announce the new location for next year's ESPC, so wait for that. But we wanted to kind of a recap on where do you actually get started. So first of all, if you are a builder, maker, developer, we do have our Microsoft 365 platform community, which is partnering closely with Power Platform community, where we have community calls, we have samples, we have calls which are specifically for Microsoft employees to share you the latest and greatest what's possible within the ecosystem. We have community demos. One of the best ways of learning is actually in these conferences as well, is go to somebody else's session to understand their learnings as they build something super cool. We do that actually in every single week in a remote format. We record those calls. If you can't make it on the explicit call, you can go to our YouTube channel and watch those recordings afterwards as well. We do it in our YouTube channel. We actually release at least one new video every single day related on how do we build, how do we extend, how do we configure Microsoft 365 to make things happen. The easiest URL to remember, it's https://akms/m365/community. And from there, you can actually find all of the details related on community calls, which are all open for everybody to join. And we've been having up to 1,500 attendees in a week in some of these calls, which is awesome. But please take advantage of this. It's a great way of keeping up to date on the announcement what we do from the Microsoft side. Now, a few other things which I wanted to call out is the sample gallery. This is really cool. We touched this already in one of the slides earlier. Already today, we have like 1,300 samples available from the gallery for Power Platform, for Microsoft Teams, for whatever, a SharePoint framework. There's so many samples available for you to take advantage. And this is samples which are provided by Microsoft or by community. So there's I can see a lot of familiar faces in the audience who actually contributed their skills and knowledge for others to benefit so that you can go and download the sample and learn from other people who've been building cool looking things. And that's what the community is all about. It's all about that sharing is caring mentality and helping others to succeed as well. Thank you for that. And then let's not forget about all of the different events which we have, the hybrid events, the remote events, online events, and in-person events. We've been partnering inside of Microsoft with cross-organizational things and releasing that communitydays.org site, which Jeff talked about on Tuesday morning as well. And this is a location for event organizers to submit their events in one location, but also for you as an attendee to see what's available. in person, in hybrid, or in online, to understand all of those awesome events which are happening worldwide, which we're super grateful as a Microsoft that this is happening. And so please take advantage of the communitydays.org service. So thank you for that as well. But cool, that's all what we're going to do from here. Now, thank you, Luisa, thank you, Laura, thank you, Emily, thank you, Derek, for your awesome demos. And thank you all for being the awesome community you are. As I started standing on this podium, we are building all of these applications and services for you. So your feedback is the key for us to understand what you need. So please keep the feedback coming. Tell us if something isn't working, something is working. Positive feedback, by the way, is also good. Tell us that so we know how to do these things. But before we close, let me invite Kevin to talk about where we will be within a year.